What's up everyone, I'm CallumOnToast, and in today's video I'm going to be showcasing some triple Shadow Sauropod action in the Retro Cup with the newly released Shadow Aurorus alongside Bayleaf and Meganium. Now you've probably seen a few videos already featuring Shadow Aurorus. It's a really solid pick for the Retro Cup, especially as a closer. However, with the team I feel like it makes more sense to have it as an ABB style team with the two grass types in the back. And actually it was Shadow Bayleaf that was the MVP for this team. Most people know Meganium completely walled by a lot of different flying type Pokemon in the meta, and they expect the same thing for Bayleaf, but that's not the case because Ancient Power catches so many trainers off guard to flip the mid-game matchup. With that being said, let's just get into the question of the day. What has been your favorite meta to play in this season? Let me know in the comment section down below, and with that being said, let's get into the battles now. Alright, so go into the first battle, leading Shadow Aurorus into Dunsparce. So not the best lead for me. I'm going to throw 1 pound of snow, then Safe Switch into my Shadow Bayleaf, and I'm met with a Shadow Dragonite. The Shadow Dragonite would completely wall Meganium, double resisting everything, but Ancient Power hits for super effective damage. 1 more Magical Leaf, and I get the farm down before they even reach a Dragon Claw. And now I'm in a great position. The opponent comes in with their final Pokemon, a Frost Sash. So once again, Ancient Power coming in clutch here. Going to hit for super effective damage. We grab a shield, but unfortunately Magical Leaf not the fastest to generate energy. They can farm me down, but I've already got them into the yellow health range. At this point, I don't need to shield this. Shadow Aurorus is going to be able to tank a Shadow Ball. They swap back into Dunsparce. We can come in with the Meganium, and I'm definitely just going to no-shield the first move. They actually go for a Drill Run there. I'm not sure if they just didn't react in time, but they should definitely be going for the Rock Slide. Rock Slide going to hit for neutral damage, and they definitely do throw the Rock Slide this time around. But that's certainly okay with me. I'm now going to overfarm, fire off the Frenzy Plant here. Frenzy Plant grabs the final shield from the opponent, and they do throw just before I reach Frenzy Plant number 2. Now at this point, I'm definitely going to have to start shielding. The opponent swaps back into the Frost Sash, and we can just go straight for the Frenzy Plant. Frenzy Plant gets the KO there. I'm now going to swap back into Aurorus. I'm taking super effective damage, but it doesn't matter. I'm able to reach the Meteor Beam, and Meteor Beam will easily get the KO from that range, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG Turbo Met into the next battle. We're going to see Shadow Aurorus into Blastoise. So once again, another rollout user. So once again, going to fire off 1 Powder Snow, then swap into my Bayleaf, and this time met with Macargo. So not a flying type Pokemon, but again, Ancient Power going to hit for super effective damage. That coverage is very nice, and again, it goes unshielded. And unfortunately, they do reach a last second charge move. However, I can safely shield up the Rock Tomb. They debuff my attack, but I still get the farm down. And they come in with a Dugong. So I can go for a Grass Knot here. Probably going to grab a shield right back from the opponent, and I do exactly that. Once again, aligning Aurorus to the Ice-type Pokemon. They do have Drill Run here, which is going to hit for super effective damage, but again, Shadow Aurorus can tank that. The opponent swaps back into Blastoise. I can come in with the Meganium. If they're on Ice Beam, this could be a little bit tricky here, but I am going to shield. They full send a Skull Bash. Absolutely fine with me. I'm now going to overfarm here. I don't overfarm too much, but I can fire off the Frenzy Plant. Frenzy Plant, going to be no-shielded. I can now outpace the Dugong to the next charge move, and the opponent will have to considerably overfarm to outpace the Aurorus in the end game. So the opponent overfarming, but they farm too much. I'm able to reach a 3rd Frenzy Plant. Frenzy Plant gets the KO there, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG Turbo Met into the next battle, Aurorus into Annihilate. So this is definitely not ideal for me. Going to be safe swapping into Bayleaf, and I'm met with Oranguru. So, of course, Ancient Power not going to be helpful here. I'm going to go and full send the Grass Knot, and Grass Knot does respectable damage there. And Shadow Bayleaf actually has a bit of bulk to it. So, I'm going to no-shield this. They go for Brutal Swing. Can we get the farm down? No, they live with 1 HP and a Dream. That is super painful. I'm going to be forced to use a shield here if I want to flip switch advantage, which I'm able to do so. And I should grab a shield instantly back up against the Annihilate. However, of course, if I got that farm down, that would have been so much better for me. We can now come in with Meganium. I'm going to force the opponent to full send a close combat. And the opponent says, okay, I'm going to do exactly that. And unfortunately, it's not looking too good for me. The opponent does not farm up to the Trailblaze. And the reason for that is because they're on Break. That's double super effective damage. And that's definitely going to be game over. Nothing I can do here. Meteor Beam does get the one shot. That is at least satisfying to see. But of course, no point throwing a charge move here. They've still got a shield in play. The counter, farm me down. And unfortunately, I do lose that game. But GG to up on there into next battle, another bad lead for the Shadow Aurorus. This time I'm actually going to stay in, of course. Medicham not going to be on counter these days, or at least is very unlikely. Psycho Cut going to generate energy very fast to that Dynamic Punch, and I'm definitely going to use a shield here. Now a little bit awkward for me because of course I do have two Pokemon weak to Ice Punch, which I am expecting to be the coverage move on this Medicham. So I'm going to bank the energy, swap into Bayleaf. They are on Ice Punch. Ice Punch does just under half our HP as they swap into a Furret. Now I'm going straight for Grass Knot. And once again, Grass Knot going to do respectable damage there. It will force the opponent to throw a charge move to get rid of us. The opponent fires off the Swift. And now we can come in with the Shadow Aurorus. I believe they threw straight away, so I can overfarm quite considerably here. If the opponent settles for a Swift, of course, that is resisted damage. Luckily, this one not going to be on Brick Break here. We fire off the Weather Ball. Weather Ball gets the KO there. And the opponent's going to come in with a Lapras. So now I'm going to overfarm, fire off the Meteor Beam here. Very risky to bait. Meteor Beam grabs the shield from the opponent. I'm now going to overfarm. I'm able to swap and catch, hopefully, a Sparkling Aria onto Meganium, and I'm able to do exactly that. The opponent swaps back into Medicham. This will be super effective, but it's going to do less damage than an Ice Beam from the Lapras. So at this point, I think I'm going to commit one shield and then go for a full farm down, hoping I've got enough HP to reach back-to-back Frenzy Plants up against the Lapras, but it will be very close. I believe I'm 2 Vine Whips away. I'm not sure if I can live the Psywave damage, so I'm actually going to swap back into Aurorus. It's a race, but Aurorus able to win the race there. Go for the Meteor Beam. Meteor Beam gets the one-shot up against the very bulky Lapras, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG up on there into the next battle. We see Clodsire in the lead, so finally a good matchup for the Aurorus. Of course, they can still have access to both Stone Edge and Earthquake, so I definitely will use shields in this matchup, and they can no-shield a single Weather Ball. At this point, I could have thrown straight away, but I didn't want to throw on CMP if the opponent was going to try and make a catch. So instead, I do overfarm. Going to farm up to very close to back-to-back Weather Balls here. This Weather Ball is going to be shielded by the opponent, and I can now throw on CMP, winning CMP this time around. And Weather Ball is going to be double shielded by the Clodsire. That's absolutely fine with me. I'm now just going to double shield as well, possibly weak to the Aurorus in the back. The opponent realizing they're going to be fully farmed down, so they swap into for Alligator, but they've given me the energy for the Meteor Beam. Meteor Beam gets the one shot there, and let's see what their final Pokemon is. They're going to come in with a Primeape, so I don't really know why they double shielded the Clodsire, but either way, boosted Weather Ball does huge damage. I can swap into Shadow Bayleaf, and the opponent does reach a last-second charge move. Close Combat does not get the KO. One more Magical Leaf, we get the farm down, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG's up on there into the next battle. You can see Golisopod in the lead. So, this is a really awkward matchup for me, of course. Arc Jet going to hit for super effective damage up against the Aurorus, and either Aerial Ace or X-Scissor going to hit for super effective damage up against my backline as well. And, of course, they're going to easily outpace the Aurorus. So, I swap. I catch the second Arc Jet onto my Shadow Bayleaf. You can see we do tank that very comfortably, and we bait out a Talonflame, and this is huge for me. I'm going straight for Ancient Power. The opponent committing to the full farm down, but Ancient Power gets the one shot there. We even get a boost, which doesn't really help me. Actually, it gives them more farm, which is maybe not really ideal there. But either way, we've now flip switch advantage. We're still down a shield. I'm going to come in with the Meganium here, and I'm actually going to no-shield this. I'm hoping Aurorus can sweep in the end game, but the opponent fires off the X's, and that does huge damage. I'm now going to swap Snipe with the Aurorus. We go for the Weather Ball, grabbing the final shield from the opponent. I don't know who wins CMP here, so I don't want to risk it. So instead, we're now going to use our final shield there, as the opponent is going to... Never mind, we're going to go and fire off the Weather Ball here, and Weather Ball is going to be no-shielded by the opponent, and their final Pokemon going to be a Furret. So I'm going straight for Meteor Beam here, and Meteor Beam should be grabbing the final shield from the opponent, and it does exactly that. We fire off the charge move, but we lose CMP. I did not realize that was going to be the case, and Swift, unfortunately, from that range, gets the KO, and then for whatever reason, I throw on CMP once again. I needed to overfarm as much as possible, but I overfarmed too much there. I don't know if Frenzy Plant would quite get the KO from that range. Maybe that was a mistake there, but either way, GG's to that opponent. Into the next battle, going to see a Salazzle in the lead. This is really awkward for me, but at least this is a Poison Fang. Poison Fang is resisted damage, so I'm going to no-shield this. I'm now just going to go straight Weather Ball here. Salazzle is super glassy, so I can get away with just firing off the resisted Weather Balls. Going to go for another Weather Ball. I could be on Ancient Power, so I might grab another shield anyways, and I do actually grab a shield. So now I'm going to swap into Bayleaf. I've given them a lot of energy, though, so not really ideal for me. I'm now going to have to double shield this, as the opponent will outpace me to the next charge move as well. So we're going to double shield, they fire off the Poison Fang, they then swap into Lapras. So I'm now going to overfarm, throw on hopefully a CMP tie with the Sparkling Aria. I'm going to undercharge this, and it is CMP. So now we can come in with the Meganium, and I can get a Vine Whip farm down. It's really important that I have energy on the Meganium, because Salazzle is still fairly healthy here. I'm hoping I put them into range where at least a Frenzy Plant will get the KO, but let's see. They come back in with Salazzle. I am really desperately hoping this gets the knockout here. It's double resisted, but Frenzy Plant gets the KO. They've got Swampert in the back. It's not over yet, but I'm able to make the catch onto my Aurorus, and that will certainly be game over. Sludge, of course, gets the KO there. We're one away from the charge move, so the opponent just concedes the match. So, GG's up on there into next battle, seeing Credilli in the lead. So, a neutral matchup here. Both of us going to hit for super effective damage with, well, the Powder Snow and the Weather Ball damage, as well as the Bullet Seeds and the Rock Tombs or Grass Knot if they go for it. I'm going to swap out there after landing a Weather Ball, but they bank the energy, which is honestly quite strange for a Credilli. Usually, they will just try and debuff you as soon as possible, but that is a smart play on the opponent's end there. We're now going to fire off a Grass Knot. Grass Knot gets the KO, but I've put myself into range for this ferret to just come in and farm me down. I'm now going to come in with the Aurorus, and I do throw on CMP here. Maybe I should have overfarmed a little bit. They go for the Trailblaze. Trailblaze, of course, I'm going to... Excuse me there. Gonna boost up their attack. Weather Ball is going to be shielded by the opponent. I swap into Meganium. I thought the opponent would try and snipe me with the Credilli with the banked move. So I swap out into Meganium, and that's going to backfire massively, as now they've landed a boosted Swift. They can actually just commit to a full Sucker Punch farm down. They're going to come out with another Trailblaze loaded, and I cannot afford to shield this, as of course, Credilli can just knock me out with whatever charge move. So Trailblaze gets the KO there, and even though I tried to make a smart play there, swapping to catch the charge move with that snipe prediction, it backfires, so GG's to that opponent there. But into the next battle, we're going to see a Ferret in the lead. We're going to stay in with the Aurorus. They have farmed up to... Well, they didn't farm up to a Trailblaze there, so I no shield. Again, it could have been a Brick Break, and that would have been quite embarrassing for me, but it's not the Brick Break. We full send the Meteor Beam, we get the one shot, and now I'm going to fire off a boosted Weather Ball. Weather Ball should be grabbing a shield here, as we are boosted, and now I'm going to swap into my Shadow Bayleaf. Now, the opponent has farmed up to a potential Dynamic Punch. The opponent fires off the Shadow Punch there, but I do shield just to play it safe, and the opponent comes in with a final Pokemon, a Toxapex. So I'm going to fire off the Grass Knot here. Grass Knot is going to be no shielded by the opponent, and I'm able to reach a second Grass Knot, and it looks like a CMP tie as well, which is huge for me. Grass Knot number 2 grabs the final shield, and now I can definitely just let this move go through. Brine does not get the KO, so we swap into Shadow Meganium. I'm now going to overfarm as much as possible, throw a Frenzy Plant on the CMP tie with the Sludge Wave, and of course, Frenzy Plant gets the KO there. They're going to come back in with the Dust Noir. They realize I'm at Frenzy Plant number 2, and so they just concede the match. So, GG's to open there into next battle. Can see a Grumpig in the lead. So, of course, awkward lead matchup for me. Dynamic Punch going to hit for double super effective damage, but I'm going to swap, try to catch the move there. It doesn't work out for me, and the opponent is now going to full send a Shadow Ball before swapping into a Toxapex. So, again, going to go for that Grass Knot here. Grass Knot, as we've seen already, does respectable damage here, and with the Magical Leaves, we do put them into the yellow health range, which is certainly enough damage for a Meteor Beam to get the KO. Sorry, enough health there for a Meteor Beam to get the KO. We're going to come in with the Aurorus, of course, shield up the Brine. I don't want to throw it on CMP just because that might encourage the opponent to shield here and grab my final shield. So I throw one before they reach back-to-back Brines. We do get the KO there. They're going to come back in with the Grumpig, and now we're boosted. I can just settle for the Weather Ball. Weather Ball grabs the first shield from the opponent, and they do reach a charge move just before I reach another Weather Ball. So I'm going to use my final shield there. I'm expecting with Grumpig in the lead, probably going to be a Ferret in the back. That's a pretty good guess here. We go for the Weather Ball, we get the KO, and it is going to be a Ferret, so I'm going straight for Meteor Beam. This should be grabbing the final shield, and then of course I can swap into my Shadow Meganium, and we will now find out if a Frenzy Plant would have got a KO in the previous battle up against the Ferret. The opponent fires off a Trailblaze, which is fine with me. This now gives me the opportunity to overfarm by one Vine Whip, and Frenzy Plant does get the KO from that range, so possibly I could have won that previous game there if I just threw a Frenzy Plant as soon as I got there, but either way, GG's to that opponent into next battle. Quagsire in the lead, of course, 2 grass types in the back. We say swap into Shadow Bayleaf and met with a Gust Pidgeot, which is definitely not ideal for me, but we go for Ancient Power. Ancient Power does connect. Unfortunately, the opponent just barely able to fully farm me down. That is literally perfect for the opponent there, as they can throw a Charge Move, and of course they give very minimal farm as well, so very unfortunate on my end. If we got a boost with the Bayleaf, actually I think I could have flipped that matchup, but either way, they come back in with the Quagsire. Now I'm forced to use a shield here. As they go for Mud Bob, I'm now going to bank a Charge Brief, and it's going to be a Jump Bluff in the back. And unfortunately, literally nothing Meganium can do there. If I flip that mid-game matchup, that could have been so good for me. But unfortunately, Bayleaf just falling short. But GG's to that opponent there. Into next battle, seeing a Talonflame in the lead. I'm going straight for Meteor Beam here, just because, of course, we're grabbing a shield. And now a Weather Ball should be enough damage to, if not get the KO, at least get them incredibly low, to the point where I can farm them down with my back Pokemon. So here the opponent does allow me to reach a Weather Ball. Weather Ball going to grab the final shield from the opponent. I tried to catch a move there, but the opponent actually overfarms. If I stayed in, I could have just got the KO there, so I'm very disappointed that is the case, especially since a Fly does not get the KO. They get even more farm. Definitely not ideal. They do have a charge reloaded, but they don't throw straight away, so Aurorus, one away from the move here. I can fire off the Weather Ball. Weather Ball gets the KO, and now I need this Meganium to sweep in the end game. So the opponent's going to fire off a Charge Move here. It will just be a Swift, so I'm going to no-shield this. Swift does quite a lot of damage there, and it will put me into pretty low health range here, but we're going to fire off the Frenzy Plant. Frenzy Plant gets the KO, and their final Pokemon going to be a Dunsparce. So this is a race. Can I reach back-to-back Frenzy Plants here before the opponent can get a full rollout farm down? It's going to be close, but it looks like we're getting there in time. They are one away from the next Charge Move, so actually, I can overfarm. Not really necessary at all, but fire off the Frenzy Plant here, and of course, Frenzy Plant gets the KO, and I'm able to take that game. So, GG to opponent into next battle, Aurorus into Sauropod once again. So once again, really tricky matchup for me. I'm going to stay in this matchup, and again, the opponent is going to throw immediately here. So maybe I could try and swap out first, but we are going to go and fire off a Meteor Beam this time around. Last time, we did just overfarm, waiting for the second Aqua Jet to swap into Bayleaf. This time, unfortunately, the opponent does not throw straight away, and as a result, I'm probably just going to have to fully sacrifice the Bayleaf. The opponent fires off the Exeter, dealing huge damage, and I will just let this next move go through. Exeter gets the KO there. Definitely not ideal for me, but Sauropod, very difficult to deal with. We can come back in with the Aurorus, and now I'm just hoping, praying that a Weather Ball will get the KO. It's resisted, and it doesn't get the KO there. And unfortunately, I think I just have to let Aurorus go down. The fact that they didn't swap out of the matchup means maybe they're weak to the grass typing in the back, but they come in with a Cradily, so this is a positive matchup for me. However, I have no remaining Pokemon, so I cannot swap out if they go for a Rock Tomb debuff, which is obviously what they're going to go for here, as of course Grass Knot would be resisted. They go for Rock Tomb. I use my final shield, and they've got a Dunsparce in the back. So this is a positive matchup for Meganium. However, since we're debuffed, it's a little bit tricky for us. They use their final shield there. Of course, I've got no remaining shields. The opponent once again goes for a Drill Run for some reason. I don't have a clue why, but it doesn't really matter. By the time they reach the next Charge Move, probably even if they go for a Drill Run, it will get the KO. So at this point, of course, no shields remaining. The opponent does go for the Rock Slide this time correctly, and Rock Slide gets the KO, and unfortunately I do lose that game. But GG to open there into the final battle of this video. Great lead for the Aurorus. The opponent's going to say swap into Lapras, and this is fine with me. I'm going to swap catch to Charge Move onto my Shadow Bayleaf, as the opponent does just go straight for Sparkling Aria. We can now overfarm in this matchup. Unfortunately, they do reach another Charge Move. I think this might just be another Sparkling Aria, but instead, I realize, of course, having Ancient Power for coverage, I might as well just use a shield here. Fire off the Ancient Power, then the Pidgeot coming back in, I can fire off another Ancient Power. So Ancient Power gets the KO. We can fire off a second Ancient Power into Pidgeot, and Ancient Power grabs a shield back for the opponent. We get the boost, but once again, doesn't really help me at that point. I'm going to come in with the Aurorus, and I expect a Brave Bird, so I actually shield, and they bait with an Air Cutter, which is unfortunate, but their final Pokemon gonna be Claydol, and this is certainly game over here. We grab the final shield with the Weather Ball. We can swap into Meganium, and I can go straight for a Frenzy Plant. Now, Frenzy Plant, I will undercharge. It still gets the KO anyways. Doesn't really make a difference here. The opponent cannot commit to a farm down, forced to throw a Charge Move, but Air Cutter actually does not get the KO there. I don't know if maybe they undercharged that on purpose, but either way, doesn't matter. Frenzy Plant gets the KO, and I'm able to take that game. So that's going to be it for today's video. If you did enjoy it, please make sure you leave a like, leave a comment letting me know, and as well, don't forget to respond to the question of the day if you haven't done so already. And if you want to see more content like this in the future, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on post notifications. That way you'll be notified whenever I upload a new video. And if you want to take your support even further, you can now become a channel member with perks including early access to new videos, shoutouts at the end of each video, custom loyalty badges, and custom emojis to use in the comments. I want to say a massive thank you to everyone that has already become a channel member. Your support is greatly appreciated, and with that being said, thank you all so much for watching today's video, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.